New thinking. That became the catch cry of former USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev. And it was an apt slogan as the Soviet leader embarked on major domestic reforms in 1985 and proclaimed the need for new political thinking in international relations. Gorbachev's primary goal was to revive the Soviet economy after the stagnant Brezhnev years. He called for increased industrial and agricultural productivity, fast-paced technological modernization, and attempted to reform the Soviet bureaucracy to be more efficient and prosperous. Gorbachev soon realized that fixing the Soviet economy would be near impossible without reforming the political and social structure of the communist nation.
The point is, we have established a democratic framework. Free elections are the guarantee that from one election to the next, society will have a better and better view of what each candidate stands for. Therefore, we'll make more informed choices.
The reforms included personal changes, most notably the axing of his foreign affairs minister, along with other old thinkers. Gorbachev was putting the wheels of democracy into motion. Former UK Prime Minister John Major.
Well on the way to democracy. I think that is the greatest legacy he will leave within the Soviet Union, and that is a remarkable legacy.
The USSR was already suffering severe economic stagnation, but with increased diplomatic, military and economic pressures, President Gorbachev introduced the liberalizing reforms of perestroika. According to Gorbachev, perestroika was the conference of development of democracy, socialist self-government, encouragement of initiative and creative endeavor, improved order and discipline, criticism and self-criticism in all spheres of society. Gorbachev's attempts at reform, as well as summit conferences with United States President Ronald Reagan, and his reorientation of Soviet strategic aims ultimately contributed to the end of the Cold War. It's now acknowledged that fundamental reform destroyed the pillars of the Soviet regime. Ultimately, it was the interaction between Mr. Reagan and Mr. Gorbachev that transformed Europe and the world. The unlikely partnership repaired relations between East and West, led to arms reduction deals, and eased tensions between the superpowers.
First Ronald Reagan Freedom Award in recognition of your imperishable contributions to the freedom of mankind.
1988 would see Gorbachev's introduction of glasnost, which gave new freedoms to the people, including greater freedom of speech. This was a radical change, as control of speech and suppression of government criticism had previously been a central part of the Soviet system. The press became far less controlled, and thousands of political prisoners and many dissidents were released. Gorbachev's goal in undertaking glasnost was to pressure conservatives within the CPSU who opposed his policies of economic restructuring, and he also hoped that through different ranges of openness, debate and participation, the Soviet people would support his reform initiatives.
This is a very great man. Just look at what he's done. He restored liberty to all the East European countries who'd suffered both under Hitler and under communism. He brought it for the first time to the peoples of the Soviet Union, real political and personal liberty. That is a tremendous achievement over quite a large area of the globe. And he did it all without a shot being fired.
The fall of the Berlin Wall, a Nobel Peace Prize in 1990, Gorbachev's achievements led to the downfall of communism, which brought Eastern Europe in from the cold.